Attorney General, would you agree that it is important for law enforcement leaders to be honest?
Of course, as well as members of Congress.
Thank you. And would you include yourself as a law enforcement leader?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You know, President Trump has also, he has referred to himself as the chief law enforcement officer of this country. So do you believe that President Trump is honest?
He is the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, and
not
only is he keeping this country safe, he is keeping this world safe.
It's a simple question, which you didn't answer.
Of course I do. He is the commander-in-chief.
Last June, Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman, her husband Mark, and their dog were brutally murdered in their home. And your USA's office in Minnesota investigated this crime and obtained a 6-count indictment of the murder suspect, stating that he had intent to kill, injure, harass, and intimidate Minnesota legislators. And I have the copy right here. I read through it. Yet a few weeks ago, President Trump suggested publicly that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was behind these murders, posting on his Truth Social account a video raising this conspiracy theory.
Do you guys remember Melissa Hortman, the Minnesota state rep that had her life taken from her by Tim Walz's aide after voting to take away health care from illegal immigrants?
Was Melissa Hortman unalived because she voted against a multi-billion-dollar money laundering fraud?
And it wasn't true. And you know it wasn't true, or else you would not have brought an indictment against the subject. Do you know what else Trump has said? He has said he has cut gas prices by 1,400%. False. That he won the 2020 election.
Actually, gas is down to $1.99 a gallon, thanks to
That
President
he didn't
Trump.
know Epstein.
Maybe $5
False.
in California.
It's my time, Mr. Chair. That he sent water to LA during the wildfires. False. That Governor Westmore of Maryland called him the greatest president of his lifetime. False.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and Donald Trump is out here sharing deranged conspiracy videos about real political violence. And his bargain bin Attorney General Pam Bondi is standing beside him like it's business as usual.
Do you agree that President Trump undermined public trust in law enforcement by suggesting that Governor Walz was involved in the Hortman murders?
I am not familiar with that statement.
Well, that is a disappointing response, and it is also why your office and Donald Trump have zero credibility, because I know, and you know, it was a right-wing extremist who murdered the Hortmans. And you and the president are being dishonest with the American people.
There's nothing normal about spreading misinformation that could influence unstable followers and endanger lives. But that's exactly what Trump did when he amplified baseless allegations about Tim Walz and the Hortman murders. And Bondi isn't just spinning. She's repeatedly shown she's unfit for office that she holds.
Last fall, after the horrific shooting of Charlie Kirk, President Trump was asked if there were extremists on both the left and the right. And his exact words were, "I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. The radicals on the left are the problem, and they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy." Do you agree with this statement? You're taking too long.
When questioned in Congress about the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files, she fought tooth and nail, acting more like Donald's personal Ghislaine Maxwell than the Attorney General of the United States. Ethics watchdogs and civil rights groups warned she wasn't qualified to lead the Justice Department and that her loyalty would lie with Trump, not the Constitution. Her time in Florida raised similar red flags, including a Trump Foundation donation that coincided with dropping investigations and lingering conflict of interest questions. This isn't about one bad hearing, it's a pattern, defending the indefensible. Whether it's conspiracy posts about Minnesota, phony claims about Iran, or mishandled sensitive documents. When the spotlight hits her, we don't see objectivity. We see deflection, we see hostility, and we see excuses.
But you know the answer because your own department has addressed the question. In 24, the DOJ's research arm issued a report on domestic terrorism, stating that the number of far-right attacks continues to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violence extremists. The DOJ published the report, and after the president made those comments, the DOJ took the report down. And I sent you a letter asking you a simple question. Why did the Justice Department remove the data that shows right-wing extremists have killed more innocent people than left-wing extremists?
Did you refer to immigration enforcement as domestic terrorism?
You should answer my question.
Yes.
You're on my time, but you won't. And what I am asking you to do is put the report back, restore the data. Stop scrubbing important data from your website. Stop taking down reports that you know the American people need to know about. There are violent, dangerous people out here with real threats, and the dishonesty from your agency comes from the covering up of these threats that could hurt American people and put our lives at risk. Do better.
Look at her record. She was Florida's Attorney General during the George Zimmerman case that ended with Trayvon Martin's killer walking free. She was AG during the Casey Anthony trial collapse. She was Florida's top law enforcement official when Jeffrey Epstein first received a sweetheart deal that allowed him to continue exploiting young girls. Time and again, when powerful people were at the center of horrific crimes, justice slipped through the cracks. That's the legacy attached to her name. And now we're supposed to believe she's the guardian of accountability. Donald Trump is the most corrupt and incompetent president this country has ever seen. He's destabilized alliances, pulled us into conflicts without clear authorization, and now escalated a Middle East confrontation that could spiral beyond control. And Pam Bondi wants Americans to believe he's the most honest man to ever occupy the office. While Bondi spins in Congress, Pete Hegseth melts down the second he's pressed about operational failures and American casualties.
I heard the question about 4 weeks. It's the typical NBC sort of gotcha type question. President Trump has all the latitude in the world to talk about how long it may or may not take. 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. It could move up. It could move back. We're going to execute at his command the objectives we've set out to achieve. And what he has shown an ability to do that other presidents can't quite seem to have the aperture to do, well, I mean, Joe Biden didn't even know what he was doing, is to look for opportunities and off-ramps and escalations for the United States that creates new opportunities to execute what we need on our own timeline. So you can play games about 4 weeks, 5 weeks. He has all the latitude, and I'm glad he does, because there's no better communicator than our president.
Leadership that cannot answer direct questions without turning combative isn't projecting confidence. It's projecting panic. Because here's the reality. There was no congressional authorization, no defined endgame, and no explanation to the American people of what success looks like. When you talk regime change, when you remove high-level leadership, when you strike sovereign territory, you don't control the response. Now we're watching retaliation, escalation, and regional instability unfold. And if this spirals, it won't be Trump absorbing the cost. It will be troops on the ground, families at home, and allies dragged into a widening conflict. The same people beating the drums for war will be the first to deny they pushed for it, and the last to send their own sons and daughters to fight. That burden falls on working-class families. This is what it comes down to. You have an attorney general who treats oversight like an annoyance and loyalty like a job requirement. That's not strength. That's bootlicking masquerading as authority. And you have a president who contradicts himself on matters of war without blinking. One moment, Iran's capabilities are obliterated. The next moment, they're an imminent threat requiring escalation. Negotiations are meaningful until bombs fall while talks are ongoing. We're told this is about liberation. Then the region destabilizes and retaliation spreads. That's not coherent strategy. That's narrative shifting in real time. And when the narrative starts collapsing, conspiracies about Minnesota, distracting from oversight, attacking the questioners instead of answering the questions, escalate, distract, deny, blame. So yes, this is about Iran. Yes, this is about war, but it's also about fitness for office. When leaders misrepresent facts and treat accountability like an inconvenience, the damage isn't partisan, it's institutional. So who are you going to believe? Pam Bondi telling you everything is normal? Donald Trump telling you something different than what he said a while back? Or your own eyes watching contradictions stack up? Remember when Trump stood on stage in 2024 and promised, "You're not going to have a war with me. I will stop the chaos in the Middle East"? Now we're told American service members have been killed, and that's just the way that it is. While working class families bury their children, the billionaire class isn't lining up at recruiting stations. The Trump family hasn't produced a generation of military service in over 150 years. Let that sink in. We're told this is about defending democracy. But if Iran bombed a school full of children, it would be called terrorism. When the United States or Israel strikes kill children overseas, it's labeled combat operations. When Netanyahu needs billions, approved. When corporations need billions, approved. When billionaires need billions, approved. But when an average American family needs health care, needs Medicaid, needs help after losing a job, denied. And through all of it, through the rhetoric, the contradictions, the shifting explanations, one thing stays constant: distraction. Because a military strike on the other side of the globe won't make the Epstein files go away, any more than Bondi's claim about the Dow going above 50,000. And that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.